Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into Black and Gold Breakdown. June 5th on the show. Appreciate you joining. If you are not already subscribed to the channel and you're watching this on YouTube, please go and do so. Do all that YouTube stuff, like it, tell your friends about the channel, all that good stuff. However you're watching, though, appreciate you being part of the show. Obviously today, the Steelers signing cornerback Cam Sutton. Just my overall thoughts on it. I'll give you that. And of course, we'll take your comments and take your thoughts on it and just have kind of an open discussion about this. So this is something that I've said for the past couple weeks. I won't be surprised if and when it happens. The Steelers were rumored and it was confirmed that they had a discussion with Cam Sutton during, I believe it was draft weekend. And so that kind of started the rumor mill of, okay, maybe there's going to be some sort of potential reunion with the Steelers and Cam Sutton. Now, for those of you who don't know, he was released by the Detroit Lions in early April for a domestic violence incident that led to him turning himself in to the authorities in Florida. And the details that have been made public in terms of the allegations and whatnot, it's pretty rough stuff. He was accused of hitting and choking his girlfriend to the point of unconsciousness. Like it's heinous stuff. And that led to the Lions releasing him about a year after signing him to a 3-year, $33 million deal with, I think it was $25 million guaranteed. It was a good contract that he had earned from Detroit. And originally, the arrest warrant was for signed under third-degree strangulation charges, which is a felony. It got reduced to misdemeanor battery, and Sutton eventually turned himself in. And now here we are, where the Steelers brought him back, and there's obviously some people who don't love it. There's obviously, it's a tough thing to talk about, but it's a necessary thing to talk about when it comes to, the NFL and how little they're perceived to care about their players harming women or harming anybody in general. And, whenever we have a situation like this, the conversation is necessary. And in terms of, my thoughts on it as a whole, the acts that are the details that were made public, it's pretty heinous stuff, and it's indefensible. No defense for it whatsoever. Going through, I personally don't know Cam Sutton. I've never spoken to him or anything like that. Seeing a few different beat writers that I'm friends with on Twitter saying, when he was in Pittsburgh before, he was a stand-up guy. They really enjoyed speaking with him, and he was always, really good with the media, really good to people and whatnot. And this just seems like a severe lapse in character. And, it appears that the Steelers feel, in a similar vein to that. And while very well may be true, and I would very much like to believe that this is very much a lapse in judgment and just a horrible, terrible mistake made by an otherwise good dude. Regardless of that, it's something it's indefensible. And it's hard to separate, the on the field aspect from the, real life aspect, where this is a person who very much affected another person. And the things that he's accused of doing to another person it's pretty egregious stuff. So having that conversation, again, it's oftentimes uncomfortable, but it's very necessary. And, I'm in the business of talking football. And if you're watching this, you're in the consumer mind of enjoying football. And so, of course, we're going to talk about this from an on-the-field standpoint, of course. But, being the fact that, what he is accused of And again, the details that were made public, it's heinous stuff. And it's really indefensible stuff. Again, hitting a woman and choking her to the point of unconsciousness. It's not good. And credit to Jenna Harner of WPXI for asking him about it today. He kind of gave a word salad non-answer. More likely because he's probably not allowed to talk about it too much because it's still like a pending legal thing. So that part I understandable to an extent. But credit to Jenna for even asking the question. And if you want to read the entire quote, I wrote about it on Behind the Steel Curtain. I'm sure other outlets have written about it as well. So the entire quote is going to be around the internet. I'm not going to read the entire thing because again, it's long and it's more or less a non-answer. But credit to Jenna for asking the question. And look, from an on the field standpoint, at least, it makes the Steelers better. And they wouldn't have done it if it didn't make them better. If this is just some dude who, happened to be in the NFL, but was more or less, a practice squatter, they wouldn't take a chance on it. But Cam Sutton makes them better. And if you look at the cornerback trio now of Joey Porter and Dante Jackson and Cam Sutton, there's not too many cornerback trios around the NFL that are going to be better than that. So it certainly makes them better. And again, from a on the field standpoint, you understand, of course, why they make the move, but it's going to come with some criticism, rightfully so. It's going to come with a lot of questions, and rightfully so. But, this is one of those situations where we're going to have these conversations. We're going to keep having them as long. And look, this is a couple days after the Buffalo Bills signed a non-football player, Gable Steveson, former wrestler, to a contract. And I think it was in 2019, he and another Minnesota wrestler got off on sexual assault charges, in large part because Minnesota law at the time, there was a loophole where if a victim was willingly intoxicated, then the person or persons in which they were accusing couldn't be charged with a crime. And so he gets off on a loophole for sexual assault and gets rewarded with a contract when he's never played a down of football in his life. And by the way, not just that, he was rewarded with being able to immediately resume his career at University of Minnesota, went on to win a gold medal and want to get signed by the WWE. And it's a shame. All of that because of a loophole in Minnesota law that has since been closed, in large part because of his situation. And so to have him get signed, and then just a few days later, Cam Sutton then gets signed, it's not a good look. And the NFL's never had a good look when it comes to this type of stuff. Let's be completely honest. I think that they instituted a mandatory minimum suspension for domestic violence related cases after the Ray Rice incident. But we still see how many guys, get accused, get charged, whatever it may be, and still be, allowed to play and whatnot. And look, again, it's always been like that, and it's not right. There's no denying that. But this is unfortunately not new. And again, it leads to these uncomfortable conversations that we have, but they are needed to be had. And again, from an on-the-field standpoint, it makes the Steelers better, and it makes their defense that much better. And so, again, with Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, and Cam Sutton all now in the secondary, and look, now having Corey Trice, Darius Rush, and Beanie Bishop all compete for time, whether it be in sub packages and things of that nature. You have a very deep cornerback room now where Darius Rush can be, one of these nickel guys. Corey Trice can be the third corner outside. And if you keep 6 corners, which they very well may do, then Beanie Bishop can be your backup nickel, assuming that he makes the team. So now you have a very deep cornerback room and a really nice secondary now, really deep secondary. Where you look at the safety room right now, Minka Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, DeMonte Casey, that's a nice 3-safety look. So again, it makes them better. And there's going to be questions asked about it, of course, as there should be. Now look, Mike Tomlin's going to have to answer some questions about it. Omar Khan's probably going to have to answer some questions about it. Cam Sutton himself, I mean, he was asked a question about it today. They're all going to be, these are all questions that are going to be asked. These are all people who are going to be asked about the entire thing. And rightfully so. And yes, it makes the Steelers better, but it does leave a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth knowing what he was, accused of and things of that nature. And again, as I've said, multiple guys on the Steelers beat have talked about it and saying that, hey, I think Alan Saunders was on Locked On Steelers a few weeks ago. I can't remember the exact timestamp. Once these rumors started heating up a little bit, and he had said, you could have given me 50 guesses of former Steelers that were accused of domestic assault, and I would have given you 50 names before I gave you Cam Sutton. And again, Alan talked about, how he seems like he'd always been, a really stand-up dude and everything, and this just feels like a ginormous lapse in character. And like I said, I don't know Cam Sutton personally. I've never dealt with him in that type of environment. Chris Carter, Alan Saunders, those types of guys, they all have. So I kind of defer to them when it comes to what he was like in the locker room and things like that. And again, it could just be a situation where, this was a tremendous mistake, a tremendous lapse in judgment, and a tremendous error from an otherwise really good dude. And like I said, it very well may be the case, but that doesn't make his actions any less indefensible. So that's going to be a polarizing topic for a while. It's going to be something that we're all talking about in terms of off the field and on the field type of stuff for a while. And look, people are allowed to mess up, man. I get that. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to mess up, some to higher degrees than others. But at the same time, you got to be held accountable for that. And look, he's going to get rightfully criticized for it. Rightfully criticized. When you do something like that and the details, a lot of them are public, again, these are ugly, heinous things that he's accused of. And when that's the case, you got to deal with the backlash. And again, I know that Jenna Harner asked him a question about it today. He gave a very long word salad non-answer. And a lot of that is probably because he can't really talk too much about it because it's still a pending legal thing. Understandable. Again, credit to Jenna for asking the question. But he's going to have to answer for it. And again, if he is someone who, shows remorse for it and genuinely tries to do his best to make up for it and make things right, then, hey, tip of the cap to him. And again, it doesn't, completely take everything away, of course. But, when the Ray Rice thing happened, everybody was very quick to bury him, and rightfully so. I mean, the Ravens released him. And there was a lot of things that went down with Ray Rice. And he's ever since become a very big advocate for, anti-domestic violence causes and things of that nature. Like, he's gone above and beyond to help the cause. And again, it doesn't take away what he did, but he's shown clear and obvious remorse for the things that he's done and has tried to make it right. Same thing with Michael Vick. Obviously went to prison for, I think, a year and a half for the dogfighting scandal. And ever since has become a giant advocate for animal rights, has donated a lot of money to different animal rights causes. Like, if you make a mistake, but at the end of the day, show that you're genuinely remorseful and try to make it right, I can at least respect that. And I hope that Cam Sutton, tries to show everybody that he is genuinely sorry for anything that may have happened and, tries to go out of his way to do everything that he can to, try to make it as close to right as it can get. Steeler lead. This is going to be a very polarizing topic with Cam Sutton. Absolutely. And look, whenever you have something like this, again, the conversations are never all of that easy, but they're necessary to have. Especially in a league that features way too many people who are accused of things like this. It's it's always difficult to have the conversation, but it's necessary to have it. If he starts to help the team win games, the fans will immediately forget about the off-field stuff, similar to how the fans did for Vic when we brought him in as hypocritical as it sounds. And again, with Michael Vick, again, him having the dogfighting ring, going to prison for that for 18 months, and then coming out of prison and immediately just trying to make right for it. I think that earned him a lot of goodwill with people. And Michael Vick himself has said that, how do I want to word it? I can't remember exactly how he worded it. It's on his Football Life episode where he said, if I didn't go to prison, I don't think I would have, gotten my mind right. I'm paraphrasing there. I can't remember his exact quote or anything like that. But once he got out of prison, I mean, he made it a pretty big goal of his to, become an advocate for animal rights and show that he was genuinely sorry for the things that he had done. And I think Michael Vick more or less was a product of his environment. Not to say that he didn't make his own choices and he shouldn't have been held responsible for them. Of course he did, and of course he should have been. But, and again, well, when we talk about people who have done bad things, like again, the Ray Rice incident is the first thing that comes to mind with stuff like this, because he was, there have been plenty of NFL players in the past who had, played after being accused of domestic violence. But that was the first one where we had it like on video, and it was gruesome and it was hard to watch and it was disgusting. And he did his very best to, not only acknowledge it, but try to make right for it. Now, he never played it down in the NFL again, but that hasn't stopped him from trying to be, or for being, an advocate for, survivors of domestic abusers, and just trying to, make right for the things that he did wrong. So, and again, I would like to see Cam Sutton do something similar to that, where he shows, genuine remorse and tries to do his best to make right for it. Again, doesn't take away what he did, but if he can, or if he, goes out of his way to, at least try to make things as right as they can be, I think that would be good for everybody. Zach says, only public details with the police affidavit, which only tells one side of the story. Nothing has been validated or deemed factual at all. Any judgment should be reserved. And again, from what the affidavit does say, and the fact that Cam Sutton turned himself in, and again, there's some, truth to this comment here from Zach, in terms of judgment being reserved and whatnot. And I get that to an extent. But the stuff in it, man, it's pretty gruesome. It's not great. And I understand the whole innocent until proven guilty type of thing. But when it comes to this type of stuff, I mean, you err on the side of, if someone is, I'm going to try, always try my best to lean to the side of the accuser, not just doing it to do it, So, and, again, the stuff in it's pretty gruesome, about, hitting her and choking her to the point of unconsciousness. Like it's not good. So I try to err on the side of, try not to, try to reserve judgment as much as possible in this type of situation. And again, I'm not a cop. I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. I'm just, a guy with an opinion in terms of that. So, it again, hard to talk about sometimes, hard to try to find that balance of, or I don't even know the right word to use there, but conversations are difficult to have. Excited for Cam to be back. Good teammate. Everyone loved him in the locker room. And look, maybe that's the case. In terms of his talent when he was in Pittsburgh, I mean, that's undeniable. He played really well in his final year with the Steelers, had a really good 6 years to begin his career, earned himself a big payday with Detroit. And then obviously all of this really, the past few months have really just been a tailspin. So it's difficult, man. It's difficult. Big Ben got into some trouble. Yeah, and it was really uncomfortable when all the stuff with Ben happened too. With the sexual assault allegations, obviously that stuff was handled in court, and there were all those details are out there for everybody to go read. I'm not going to dive into the history of Ben Roethlisberger, but it's always uncomfortable when stuff like this happens, no doubt. Physical player, great coverage when not expected to be on an island. And again, on field, he's going to be a good fit. I mean, he was a good fit in the Steelers defense. I don't expect that to change. They have their starting nickel guy now, one would assume. So, again, on the field, it makes perfect sense. I totally get that. And I understand why they, why they made the move in terms of, the on the field stuff. And again, Mike Tomlin is going to have to answer some questions about it at some point. Omar Khan probably going to have to answer some questions about it at some point. Cam Sutton himself was asked a question about it today. Probably can't speak too much about it though. Yeah, it's just like on field, just purely on the field, it makes sense, and I get it. But there is, a little bit of that black cloud that follows it, and it's just one of those things that's difficult to do. I do have faith in Tomlin being able to handle players with questionable track records. Yeah. Trying to think of like the last Steelers player that was anything like this. I mean, Ben, obviously, I mean, that was a pain in the butt and definitely not a great look. I mean, Ben got suspended for it. He got suspended originally 6 games. It got reduced to 4. And that's another thing. Like, Cam Sutton is almost certainly going to face suspension. My guess is it's going to be between 6 and 8 games. And then we'll see what happens after that. But he's almost certainly going to get suspended. It's just a matter of how long and when the suspension is dished out. Talent matters more than anything. I mean, sure, on the field, yes. And that's why they made the move in the first place, is because they know that he can help them win. If it was just some Joe Schmo that nobody knew about, then yeah, they wouldn't have brought him in. But again, stuff like that, it's always a pain in the butt to talk about. Cam starters are a misdemeanor now. Yes, they were originally. The warrant originally, it was 3rd-degree strangulation, which is a felony. It got reduced to misdemeanor battery. I never lean either way because folks can embellish for personal reasons. He's enrolled in an abuse counseling program in Florida. And look, that's good. I couldn't remember if he was enrolled in anything or anything like that, and that's great to hear. Again, I'm also not saying that he doesn't deserve a second chance. I do want to make that perfectly clear. I think that, again, everybody makes mistakes, some to higher degrees than others. And in this situation, from all accounts of people that, have dealt with Cam professionally on the Steelers beat, they said, he's always seemed like a really stand-up dude, and this feels like a tremendous, tremendously out of character for him. And again, that very well may be the case. But, at the end of the day, you got to, those things you got to be held accountable for. And it's great to hear that he's in abuse counseling. That's good. And that's a very good first step in trying to make all of this as close to right as it can be. So I think that that's a good first step. And again, like I said, not against people getting second chances. Michael Vick got a second chance and made the absolute most of it. Ray Rice didn't play again, but he's done the absolute most to his ability to try and be an advocate for domestic abuse survivors and be, I think he's done a lot of like public speaking about it as well. Like he's done the very best that he can post his incident. So, I'm all for people getting second chances and trying to make the most of them. And I hope that Cam makes the most of his. I hope we still bring Patrick Peterson in. I don't. No disrespect to Patrick Peterson. It's just there's no spot for him on the roster. Where are you going to put him? Cornerback route, like I'm totally comfortable with running it back with Darius Rush, Corey Trice, and Beanie Bishop. Don't need Patrick Peterson. The only way that he is going to see the field is if they put him back at safety, and there's no reason to do that because he already got 3 safeties. He's too slow to do anything else. So I'm good on Patrick Peterson. Can also partially atone by giving all 32 NFL teams a Zoom class. Yeah, I'm all for whatever it takes to at least, show that you care about this type of stuff, So I'm, again, on the field, the move makes perfect sense because Cam Sutton, I think, wasn't a good fit in Detroit's defense. Didn't have a good year last year. I think coming back to the Steelers defense, I think that he'll play well in the system, being a nickel corner where he's best at, by the way. I think that is another thing where he's best at being a slot corner, and I think that's where they're going to put him. So that's good. Pat Pete was washed. He could be an assistant. Yeah, I mean, if he wants to come back in a coaching perspective, I'm cool with that, but he's not good anymore. I don't think they should bring him back. Cam got his number 20 back. That seems to further Pat P not coming back. Maybe. I mean, look, I don't think Patrick Peterson's coming back. I don't think he should come back, but yeah, that's. And look, I'm gonna see all of this on the field tomorrow. I'll be at OTAs, the final day of OTAs tomorrow, so I'll be there. Now, like I said, make sure you subscribe to the channel for all the post OTA stuff tomorrow for the show. Darwin, I would bring back Peterson as a coach if he wants to do that. Then absolutely, definitely not against that. But that's the only degree in which they should bring him back, because as a player, I think that those days are done. Sutton's year in Detroit isn't a reflection of the year he'll have in Pittsburgh. Don't forget Ryan Watts. Yeah, Ryan Watts is there too. I do think they're going to use Ryan Watts more so as like a safety because he's longer and lankier. So I think that he'll be more of a safety type player. We'll see if he makes the roster as a rookie. I personally can see him just being on the practice squad as a rookie. But we'll see. We'll see. And in terms of Cam and his year last year not being a reflection of what he'll have this year, I agree. I think that being back in a familiar place in Pittsburgh, a defense that he knows, teammates that he knows, I think that he'll have a much better season this year than he did last. Sutton for vet minimum is a major steal. Yeah, no, it's in terms of the production that he'll give. And I think a lot of that is because, we had $25 million in guaranteed money on his deal with the Lions, and then they cut him once all of this took place. So, he wasn't going to garner big money, especially everything that he's dealing with right now. So, yeah, getting him for pretty cheap. Lions use Cam on the outside, I read. He's better in the middle. Yeah, he's better as a slot corner. Now, look, the Steelers tried doing that a little bit at one point, too. And, pretty quickly found out that, he's best used as a nickel guy. So, I'll take a couple more comments on this. I'm going to dip out a little bit early tonight. I have another podcast that I agreed to hop on tonight. So, we're going to keep this one to about 35-ish minutes. But again, just wanted to give my thoughts on everything in terms of both the on and off the field stuff with Cam Sutton. Again, obviously the on the field stuff speaks for itself. I think he's going to be a really good fit coming back to the defense, coming back to play nickel. So I'm looking forward to seeing the on the field stuff. And I hope that, and again, he's in a abuse counsel program in Florida. That's great. I hope that it helps him. And I hope that he learns from this. And I hope he becomes better And all of this can somehow, obviously not be put in the past, because anything like this, it's, can't just pretend it didn't happen. But I hope that he does his best to make the best out of it and tries to do as much as he can to make it right. What's going on, Jared? How you doing? Good. Thank you so much for hopping on and joining the stream. Defense will finally be able to cover the middle of the field with Queen, Wilson, and Sutton. Yeah, no, like coverage-wise, they're going to be very good next year, and I'm pretty excited. Cam's last season with the Steelers, he played 635 snaps on the outside. Yeah. And again, I would hope that you look at his numbers that year, like he had 3 interceptions in 2022. And I never understood why they put him on the outside, because he was best utilized as a slot corner. And again, it looks like that's how they're going to utilize it. So I didn't understand them trying to use him on the outside, because they didn't have a solidified nickel guy. And it just didn't make sense. Cam's a great fit at slot corner. What a trio of corners. I'll have pretty good depth there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We think of Graylin Arnold. I don't know much about Graylin Arnold. Yeah, that's another thing that's kind of been flying under the radar, is that Graylin Arnold was signed. He spent last year with the Texans. Again, I don't know much about him personally. But yeah, they signed 2 defensive backs today, Graylin Arnold being the other. So like I said, I don't know much about Graylin Arnold, so I can't really speak on it too much. And my day's been mostly filled with talking about Cam Sutton. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe a guy that just ends up on the practice squad. If he sneaks on the roster and plays special teams, that's cool. But I'll have to look a little bit more into him. The Red Cam lost $11 million when cut from the Lions. That should make any person do some self-reflection. Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, because he was scheduled to make, so the deal that he signed with the Lions was 3 years, $33 million. I think it was like 25.3 in guaranteed money. So getting cut, losing $11 million that you're scheduled to make, I hope that makes you kind of look yourself in the mirror and try to become a better person and learn from it. Arnold and Beating will battle it out for the backup slot corner. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think Darius Rush could also be a versatile guy where he can play outside or slot. So no, that's going to be a fun one to keep an eye on. Derek Bell in the chat. Always good to see you, pal. Detroit secondary wasn't good, so Cam was their best, and didn't Branch get hurt? Detroit dealt with a lot of injuries last year. They signed, because they spent a lot of money on the defensive backfield in free agency. They brought in Emmanuel Mosley. They brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They brought in Sutton. They drafted Branch. And, like, all of those guys got hurt. And so, yeah, he was kind of dealt a little bit of a bad hand. And I think that coming back to Pittsburgh on the field, he'll be much better, especially putting him back at that nickel spot where he's best utilized. So I'll wrap it up with this. And I've already said it. So if you've been here from the beginning of the stream, I apologize for being a little bit repetitive. Off the field, yes, questions are going to be asked, and all the stuff in the affidavit, it's not great. And it's important to have the conversations about what happened off the field, because these are human beings at the end of the day. And more than anything, you want the people involved in the his girlfriend who was accusing him of these things, them to be okay. You want Cam Sutton to learn from this and get better as a human being and as a person and grow from it. But these conversations are never easy to have from that perspective, but they're necessary to have. Obviously, he's getting somewhat of a second chance, and I hope that he makes the most of it, and I hope that he grows as a person because of it. In terms of on the field, I think it's going to make the Steelers a lot better. They got their starting nickel corner, and I think that Cam Sutton is going to fit right back into this defense like he never left, and it's going to make the Steelers' defense that much better. So that's my overall thoughts on the entire situation. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in to today's show. Again, tomorrow I'm going to be at the South Side for the final day of Steelers OTAs. So be sure to come, bring your questions. I'm going to have a lot of, quotes from guys, things that I saw from the final days of OTA. So be sure, if you're not already, subscribe. Tune in tomorrow, right around this same time, between 7:30 and 8 p.m. to talk about the final day of Steelers OTAs. In terms of written work, tomorrow on USA Today, I ranked all 32 NFL head coaches 32-1. That will be out tomorrow morning. You can go read that on Touchdown Wire for USA Today. Very fun piece for me to write. Again, features my normal balance of sarcasm and numbers. So go and read that tomorrow. 32-1, the NFL head coach is ranked. And again, like I said, I'll be at the Steelers facility tomorrow for the final day of OTAs. So I'll tell you who I talked to, what they told me, what I saw. So bring your questions, bring your comments, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Tell your friends to subscribe and hop on the stream tomorrow. Again, it'll be around the same time, between 7:30 and 8. And we'll talk about the final day of Steelers OTAs. And then we got mini camp coming up soon. I think their mandatory mini camp begins next week. It begins next Tuesday. It's next Tuesday to Thursday is mandatory mini camp. I will be at Wednesday of mandatory mini camp. So, busy week of content coming. And like I've talked about before, trying to put together a little something with other content creators in this space about the Steelers draft and everything. So don't worry, feelers are being put out. Invitations have been sent. So we'll it's in the process of coming together. So I do see John asked something. What is the next podcast you will be on today? I didn't catch it. What is the name? I know who it's going to be with. I don't think I know the name of it, but once it's all done and wrapped up, I'll talk about it on the show tomorrow, and then I'll drop it. I'll drop a link or something in the description once it's out. So yeah, you can get your daily dose of me. If you want to support the channel more, you can leave super chats now. You can become a Pump Fake Plus subscriber. It's $2.99 a month. So just other ways that you can support the channel. But more of anything, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends to subscribe to the channel. Spread the word. All the good Steelers stuff, all the NFL content. If you didn't watch yesterday, me, Mike Golick Jr., JP Acosta, we drafted quarterbacks. We drafted candies. That was a lot of fun. That's on the channel. AFC North preview with Kevin Ostreicher of Locked On Ravens. That was on Monday. That's on the channel. You can also get both of those wherever you get your podcasts. Again, that's the Pump Fake with Jarrett Bailey, if you want to listen to those two. Or again, you can watch both of them on this channel. And I'll be back tomorrow to recap Steelers OTAs. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good night.